Disclaimer, Ganzo sent me these two knives for zero money. I purely just sent them an email saying, hey, where do I buy Ganzo knives in Australia? And they said, if you have a video YouTube channel, we'll send you them for free to review. So I said, okay, here's my address, and about a week later, through Chinese Express Post, these two knives showed up. So I didn't pay for them, and I'm not generally a free knife seeking channel, so I'm going to give these both away. Wah, 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 wah. Nope, it's not happening, but gets there in the end. I've got another Ganzo knife to review, folks. Second and final, so don't worry, I'm not going Ganzo crazy or anything like that, but I got two and I'm reviewing them both. This is the Ganzo G704. Now this knife is an emulation of a couple of Benchmade type features. So you've got the Benchmade clip, which is, you know, the phallic clip there, which people often point out. You've got an axis lock, and you've got a handle that's fairly similar to like the McHenry and Williams type handle, just in terms of being vaguely tactical and you know, fairly grippy G10 type, you know, softer G10, but grippy and fairly ergonomic. It's actually a knife that feels quite good in the hand. A 440C blade of about 3.5 inches long. So let's talk about what I like and what I don't like so much about the knife. So I like about the knife, it is a very, very sharp knife out of the box. This had the best factory edge out of the two, and I've got a couple of other knives on the day that had factory edges that weren't quite as good as this one. So it does come reasonably well finished, and it does have overall good fit and finish. It's got a, the axis lock here is, you know, it's kind of fun to play with. It's usually more fun to play with than the knife can flick open, but this one doesn't. It's just a little bit stiff and doesn't seem to be breaking into that, you know, silky Benchmade point anytime soon. So I'm pretty sure it's just the way that the cookie crumbles with these. It's got pretty good, nice construction, so you can see all the way through the knife, good for cleaning it out. This is made as more of a hard use, tactical-ish kind of knife, as you can see by the swedged point. It's a bit of a stabber, it's got a nice straight plain edge, it's got a thumb ramp there covered in jimping, and yeah, it is quite a good feeling knife, especially for the price. This is about a $20 knife. The main thing about this knife is it's really, really heavy. So heaviness to you could be a good thing or a bad thing. I'm not super bothered about heavy knives myself. It doesn't put me off instantly from it. So this is what it is. So 440C for the blade steel, that's better than most of your Chinese knives. So it's about probably on par with like sort of the 9CR 19 MOV that they make in sort of the better San Renmus and things. It is, I think, a little better than the 8CR13 that you get in lots of the other Chinese knives, so not a wash there either, not too bad at all. The blade slices and cuts pretty well for something that is really, really rather thick. So just for thickness comparison, let's compare it to a Benchmade 940. So it's a bit thicker than the Benchmade and just a lot stouter and sturdier as well. It has a bit of a lower sabre grind than I'd prefer, but it didn't really seem to stop cutting tasks in their tracks at all. I cut some paper just to test the initial factory edge, and the initial factory edge was pretty good. In fact, better than you usually get from more expensive knives, so that was cool. And then I did cut some heavier manila rope, which is always a real test of the geometry of the blade to see how easily that does. And it both air slices and push cuts through it really, really well. I then cut some fruit, some food stuffs, and yeah, as predicted, the blade in this one isn't super, you know, it's not a culinary master by any stretch, but I don't think that's the purpose of the knife. I think the purpose of the knife is for hard use or self-defense and things like that. I then went and did some carving on just a block of pine, which is a softwood, but you know, it's one that's nevertheless quite, you know, good for doing twisty cuts and testing, seeing how well a knife is in hand and cutting. And this is definitely the more comfortable of the two Ganzos in my opinion, and probably the one I do prefer out of this one and the other Ganzo that came. So yeah, it's done pretty well. The things I don't like about the knife, well, I'm not super fond of this blade shape. I think it's a bit of an ugly looking blade shape. I'm never fond of the swedges going down. I think they just look a bit too martial. The slowness of the knife as well to deploy, it's not super easy to deploy, and the thumb stud is nestled fairly closely to that scale, so it isn't the easiest to grab it. It's not as intuitive as lots of other knives are. And just the weight, I mean, there's just a few options that they could have taken to reduce the weight. So those are full steel liners, and that's a fair slab of steel there. So it does add, you know, does add a fair bit. This is probably about a 5.5 or 6 ounce knife, so definitely weighs about probably twice as much as the Benchmade 940, which gives you really about as much blade and about as much versatility as this knife here does. So not that, you know, you can really compare the two, because this knife costs 12 times the amount as this knife. So anyway, overall, it's a good one. It's probably the better one out of the two. If you would like this knife, which I will give away because it was sent to me for free, so I'm all for paying it forward, I'll just get you to comment at the bottom of this video. I want you to tell me, I want you to rank the 5 Die Hard movies in terms of your favourites, and the person that matches with my favourite Die Hard movies in that order gets this knife. So there you go. So do that, and the winner of that I'll announce in the Ganzo giveaway video in a couple of weeks' time. So if 2 people get it, it'll just be the first person that did it right. So there you go. Alright, so overall, pretty happy with this one. This is a pretty good hard use type knife, and it's made of reasonable steel for something that's quite low cost in about the $20 range. So yeah, really got to give it to Ganzo on this one. Oh, one thing I don't like though, which I did forget to cover, was I'm not that fond of tangs sticking out like this. I do find that this can get tangled up in my keys. You can you'll pull your knife up, and it's not super hooky, but you can sort of pull your keys halfway out your pocket sometimes when you pull your knife out, especially if it's between your pocket seam and here. Just things that happen. It's always best to make the tang meet the edge of the handle, in my opinion. One last thing, sorry Ganzo, one last sort of knock, but overall doesn't detract too much from what is a really, really good blade for the money. So there you go. Thanks for watching, dudes. See you later.